After being closed for about 6 months and recently opened for exit classes, it is back to school for other primary and secondary school students. State governments have released guidelines for the resumption of public and private schools with strong recommendations for safety precautions to be adhered to. This is to curtail the further spread of COVID-19 cases in Nigeria. Joining me now is lecturer Dr. Kwemi Ashaolu, and we will begin with you, Dr. Ashaolu. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. School begins, a majority of schools are resuming today because the government is looking at phased opening. And as there's palpable anxiety across the board for both parents and some school authorities. But for you, what is the major concern looking at the reopening of schools? Because the government, on the one hand, is saying that caution, there has to be safety precautions have to be adhered to strictly so as to avoid a second phase of an outbreak of the pandemic. But what concern do you foresee or have?
The major concern I foresee in this regard is having to have access to water to wash hands consistently. Then I see another thing, the use of face mask. You find out that a lot of people, tends to make use and reuse a face, as in disposable face mask. You see it so dirty. And I try to look at it like, okay, if students will come to school and there would be provision, or the parents who need to provide face masks on a daily basis, and maybe either the ones that they can reuse, that is the one that is made of clothes and things like that. And then in schools whereby, I want to believe that most schools that will be resuming today would have, one, fumigated the environment, because some of the schools have been closed for about 6 months. Yeah. And, fumigated the environment, have provisions for infrared thermometers, yeah. And then provide, have that source of water, because one, what we were told that the water should be a running water, but what you find in most schools is, well, they have, buckets. A bucket whereby, there will be a tap attached, and then where you can actually wash your hands.
All right, so if you can hold the thought for a bit, we have our TVC News Ogun State correspondent Kazim Olawe joining us now to tell us about the phased reopening of schools in Abeokuta. Kazim, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Tell us what the situation is like in Abeokuta. How many schools are looking to reopen today?
Well, thank you. Good morning to you. I am in front of Gateway Secondary School in Abeokuta here. Schools in Ogun State, both primary, secondary school, and tertiary institutions are expected to open today. But the state government came up with different guidelines in order to prevent another major outbreak of COVID-19. And what are the guidelines? The primary schools are expected to open, but pupils in primary 1 to primary 3 are expected to go to school between the hours of 8 a.m. and from primary 3 to primary 6, they are supposed to be in school between noon and 3 p.m. And same goes for the JSS class, JS1 to JSS 3. They will be in school between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. And then SS1 to 3 will be in school between noon and 3 p.m. For vocational institutions and tertiary institutions, they are supposed to resume fully. And of course, the private schools are also expected to comply with this directive. Here at Gateway Secondary School in Abeokuta, we have about 2 or 3 teachers at the entrance trying to prevent students from coming into the school without using their face mask. And with what I have observed here is a major problem, because the teachers are on ground, the head office attached to this school, she is on ground with the infrared thermometer, but majority of the students coming to school today, they are not coming with their face mask. So they are turning majority of them back to their home to bring face mask. With no face mask, you cannot have access into
Now,
premises.
Kazim, did you speak with any of the students that was turned back to go get a face mask to know why they didn't make use of the face mask while coming to school in the first place?
Unfortunately, majority of them, I spoke to a couple of them, and they said they forgot to bring it along. Some say they do not even know, they are not aware that they are supposed to come to school with the face. That implies that they have not been using the face mask, before even resumption, because the face mask has become a culture. And if you are using this all the time, definitely you will know that it is not necessary. It is necessary for you to put it on. So if you are coming to school without face mask at this critical period, it shows that the parents at home and of course the students or pupils, they are not accustomed with what is happening presently.
All right, Kazim, thank you for bringing us to speed. We'll definitely keep a tab on developments from there. Now, I need your reaction to what Kazim Olawe just said to us. Students not making use of face masks. And the reason is some say they are not aware, some say that they forgot or something, which also has been the concern of the government taking responsibility. Now, when you look at it, on whose side does this responsibility of ensuring that Nigerians or everyone take responsibility, being adequately informed on how to take responsibility of yourself and also make the effort?
Well, it's quite pathetic that we still find ourselves, having this kind of situation in our hand. The government has done its part by ensuring that we're adequately informed when it comes to, make use of this, do this, do this. And I think it's now the part of a parent and even individuals, the students alike, that, make use of this thing. It's better to make use of a face mask rather than to be sorry.
Prevention being better than cure.
Yes. That's make use of it, because if a parent won't ensure that a child that goes to school make use of, or you provide the face mask for him or her before going to school, if he should go to school and is coming back home with some kind of virus, it's going to infect everybody that lives in the same place with him. Do you understand that? And now, when you now try to look at, I try not to just think it through for someone to say, I forget it, or like Kazim said, it shows that it's as if they've not been using it.
But a lot of Nigerians still do not believe that COVID-19 exists. And that's where the question of, are we doing enough in terms of advocacy, educating people, making use of community communicators to drive home how severe this situation can be? If
government has done more than it's done, some people won't still believe. And it's only us, that at this time, people only need to be responsible. Being responsible cannot be overemphasized. And when you look at it, the fact that, there have been a lot of advocacy, even in local languages, because, maybe a lot of people do not understand English, they do not understand, the language of communication. A lot have been done when it comes to radio jingles in local languages and all of that. But some people will still no, they are just brandishing figures around. This thing is not real. Can't you see that it's only the rich that are dying? It's not coming to the poor. And a lot of people will still continue to go with that kind of mentality.
It's really sad to see such kind of development in a situation like this. But we'll leave the conversation here, Dr. Okpeyemi Ashaolu.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time on The Breakfast Show.
It's my pleasure.
We are going back to school. Those are some of the happiness I received when I was coming to the office this morning, because I saw some parents who were happy. But then we're concerned about two things. We want to go back to school. We're happy to resume to school. But again, we are also concerned about flattening the curve. These two things, do you feel we are still in somewhat a quagmire?
Yeah, that danger is still there. However, we have to go back to school. This pandemic has actually made about 1.5 billion students to be out of school, according to UNESCO. And you can't find, Lagos State government announced on Saturday, I think, that, well, religious centers can
fully reopen.
Gym, spas, cinema houses and all of that. And then you come to think about it that, okay, well, what's happening to our educational sector? We have to go back to school, but we need to put those measures in place to ensure that we'll flatten the curve.
All right, let's speak to our correspondent in Ekiti, Ayomide. Let him bring us up to speed with, the level of compliance with the safety protocols at perhaps one of the schools that you went to observe the reopening.
A very good morning to you. I'm at Christ School in Ado-Ekiti. This morning I've been to about 7 to 8 schools, and I observed very closely what I describe as a partial compliance with safety protocol. What I mean by partial compliance is that some of the students were on face masks, while some were not wearing their face masks. And I could see some of the teachers too as well, who are not wearing face masks and asking students to wear face masks. I saw in the school where there was a mild drama. Some students got into the school in droves, and after checking through at the gate with the checks on their temperature and hand washing, they proceeded into the school, and midway into the school compound, they removed their face masks. About 6, 7 of them, and I was looking at them, and I could hear comment like, "I beg, please, you cannot come and die." You understand that kind of a situation. So I think the orientation some of them have with the reality of COVID-19 is very, very low. And just like the government said that this reopening of school is in phases, in Ekiti State, just SS2, GSS3 and primary 6 students are resuming now. Next week, Monday, they will be joined by GSS2, SS1, and some primary 5 students, while the full resumption will be later in October. That's the situation right here in Ekiti.
All right, Ayo, did you try speaking with any of the teachers or anyone there at the school, asking, because they are supposed to also monitor the compliance to the COVID-19 protocol? Did you speak with anyone? What did you get?
Yeah, I spoke with some of the teachers, and they told me that some of them even begged that we should not put them on TV because they feel that some of the materials for them to use is not available at the moment. Some of them said that they have done what they could to ensure that students resume appropriately, keeping to safety guidelines. But one thing that I discovered is the majority of the teachers themselves not wearing face masks. And that is a situation where you see some of the students in some schools I have to just go inside and do their normal duty.
All right,
it is not about
Ayomide, we'll have to leave the conversation here now due to the interference, but definitely we keep a tab on developments from Ekiti State. Thank you. I'd like to get your reaction, Dr. Ashaolu, with regards to what Ayomide has said. He talked about the fact that from his observation, some of the students, after they were allowed into school because they had their face masks on, a little into the school compound, they took it off, saying that, I beg, they cannot come and die, using their words. And then some of the teachers were not adhering to these protocols. Now, how much of a challenge does this pose? Because like he mentioned, the government is looking at flattening the curve, and we have to reopen schools like you have pointed out. What do we do at this point to ensure strict compliance? Because even if government says, I am providing, it also means that these people may not use it.
Yeah. All of us, at this point, all of us should assume the role of compliance officer. As in, you monitor, you tell people who are not making, although some people will like, okay, well, you don't have any right to tell me I should make use of my face mask. I've been to a store before outside Lagos State, and I find myself to be the only person making use of a face mask, and then they were looking at you like, who is this one? Where is it coming from? You know, And you may still like continue to see things like that in our schools. And the only thing that bothers me there is for teachers who are not using the face mask. How are you going to tell students to make use of? Because the students will be like, okay, Mr. Alagbaja, you are not making use of yours. Then why are you telling us to use it? And I think we still need to continue to reorientate people about this virus. That, well, that's the danger is still there. The danger. We're talking about the second phase, right? Now, if you're talking about the second phase, and then the precautionary measures that ought to be in place are not there,
okay,
the problem is still there.
Well, with all of this, then nobody wants to go back home. We want to make money. We want to go back to our places of worships. We want to acquire more knowledge. Well, are you scared one way or the other, so to speak, that we might also be forced to go back to lockdown if people are not compliant?
I am scared because for people who have had a near-death experience about this COVID thing, they will tell you that, well, it's not something that you should even joke with. And then you find out that some people, like I said earlier, they are just taking it with like, well, the thing is not for the poor, it's just eating, them there in the corridors of her, and then we are okay, then our immune system is this and all that. I'm so scared because if anything should go wrong, God forbid, maybe going back to square one, and then you now try to look at it that, okay, well, where does that leave us?
Now, for want of time, there was something Ayomide mentioned. He also talked about the fact that teachers complained about not having what they need to address this issue. Although he didn't point them out, but some of it could be the water.
The water, yes, I said it earlier.
Yes, water for hand washing,
yeah.
And then perhaps the use of hand sanitizers,
right.
The infrared thermometers. Government or the school now, who takes responsibility? Because something has to be done. There has to be some level of, I meet you here at this point, we meet at a certain level. Something has to be done.
The government and the school should
do
that. Yeah, the government, most importantly, should do that. At least at this level, you can't ask parents to, okay, well, provide,
water
from home, or asking students. Because, and I try to look at it. I was thinking about it yesterday that, what about schools that do not have maybe a borehole system? Will they be asked to be fetching water so that they can keep water, in some places and things like that? What happens?
There's a challenging situation,
yeah,
but we must leave the conversation here, and thank you, Dr. Kweyemi Ashaolu, for your time on the Breakfast Show.
Thank you.
I guess